Hey everyone, welcome back to Safety Optional. I know it's been quite a while, but we've finally gotten back to working on our Jeep Comanche project. I am terribly sorry that it's been this long, but hey, we've all got lives and wives and kids, and it just gets in the way. But you know, we finally made time for our priorities here. So if you didn't know, we're putting a 5.3 liter V8 out of a Chevy Tahoe into this 1987 Jeep Comanche pickup. And tonight we're going to work on exhaust, we're going to work on fluids, making this thing kind of run more, and we're just going to see where it takes us. So stay tuned. If you haven't been keeping up with the project, where we left it last time, the engine runs, it runs fine, but we've never run it for an extended period of time because we don't have all the fluids and especially the cooling system hooked up. So one of the goals tonight is going to be, at least on a temporary basis, to hook up this cooling system and get it running so we can let this thing idle and run and just test it out, put it through its paces. You'll also remember that we hooked up the drive shaft. So this thing theoretically could run if we could shift it into gear. Except we have the shifter hooked up, but we don't have it mounted, and the cable's kind of funky. So we're gonna have to work on that tonight. But that creates another question. If we can make it go, can we make it stop? Well, not exactly. The brakes don't work, so we've got to work on that too. But if you'll remember last time, we started working on our exhaust until we ran out of welding wire. But tonight, we've got more welding wire. And so we're going to really work on knocking out this exhaust. The battle plan is to get all the down pipes welded up and running back, and then put in an exhaust crossover, an H-pipe, and then we're also going to put in bungs for O2 sensors. And my personal favorite part of the exhaust, because if you put a V8 into a Jeep like this, you gotta let people know. And so we got two of the best mufflers we could possibly think of, cherry bombs. And let me show you these bad boys. Nothing says loud and proud like this. Take a look at that. That's gonna be awesome. And one, and a two, and a...
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, go!
What was that?
I don't know what that was.
All right, here's a quick update. We have gone through the engine and we have installed the exhaust manifolds with exhaust gaskets now. We've also filled up the cooling system with water. We've also been working on getting the power steering pump hooked up so that when we start this engine, it doesn't burn up the power steering pump, so it can hold fluid. And we're getting ready to start working on the brakes and the exhaust. Okay, so one of the problems that we encountered is that the upstream O2 sensor for this manifold, if you'll remember, these are Camaro, like O2 Camaro manifolds that are on this 05 Tahoe engine. Anyway, there's an upstream O2 sensor that we no longer need on this, and because we've got that, Colin will point it out there, it goes right up there, and even if we wanted to put an O2 sensor in there, it would totally hit the body and the frame of the truck. But what we do is we went to O'Reilly's and we found a drain plug that fits perfectly. The only trick is it's very difficult to reach with a wrench. We should have thought to put that on beforehand, but we're going to put it on now.
You know,
so,
yeah.
So Colin's working on that right now.
All right, so we need to take off about 1/8 of an inch off the top of this so it'll fit between the manifold and the car body.
Yep, from the frame, yep.
So we're gonna chuck it up in the old lathe here and see if we can cut some of that off. Bolts are typically hardened, so we may not be able to do that, but we'll give her the old college try. So rule number 1 about using the lathe is don't ever take your hand off the chuck key. Because there's lots of fun stories about turning it on with this thing in there and whipping it out and hitting you in the head. Or in college they said that some chick got caught in the boob and pinned against the machine. That sounded like fun. There's a cool YouTube video of a guy standing up here trying to hold it and it pulls him in, and there's lots of gory pictures
That's not cool at all.
that'll make you barf if they show you during the training video. So the lessons that I've learned is start slow, because if you start too fast, your tool and it changes funny colors and things like that happen. So usually you can't go too slow. You probably won't be cutting optimally, but heck, we may be able to speed up a little bit. Spot.
This is going to be the piece that comes out of the manifold and down to the angle.
Well, you got to kind of. That's the best way to measure it.
Yeah, lay it out. Go ahead and pull it down a little bit further. 6 inches ought to do us. So right there. Don't let it go. It'll work on its own, right?
Well, yeah.
Oh man, I'm just gonna come right out and say it right now. This part kind of sucks. It's only like 110 degrees, and there's no air conditioning in this part of the shop, and I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt so I don't burn my arms again. And yeah, and I just got dirt in my eye, you know. So let's do this. Bring on the pain. For good measure. Got it.
I can give you an 8. That's about it though.
Matt, what are you working on?
This is a power steering pump line. It's just covered in grease and muck and just knocking it down, nothing fancy.
So Matt's cleaning up fittings to get the power steering working. Colin's working on style points for the bone plug.
I'm trying to make it fit.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so power steering fun. It's all hooked up except for one of the return lines to the main reservoir, and actually the original fitting wouldn't fit, so we put a little curve in it. Now when that goes in there, it should bend around the pulley here and have enough clearance. Quick and easy. Just put her in the hydraulic press and bend it.
All right, well, I'm gonna continue working on the exhaust. I finally got the little collector part out of the truck, which was a pain in the butt. I had to use a universal joint on a wobbly extension with a deep well socket to get it off, but I got it off. So here is the collector. You can see it's gapped out. I'm gonna have to really fill in on that. It's gonna be ugly, but I'm gonna do my best to kind of make it pretty. But so we've got a new welding area here at the family shop, and because it's set up for their production welding, it's they like to weld stainless, and so let me show you this. Our setup kind of is peak on brand for this project. So We've got the TIG welder, which this is not the time for me to. I've barely learned how to TIG weld, and it was not pretty. We got the MIG welder, but it's set up for stainless. So we're going to do the right thing and use the 120 volt Harbor Freight welder here to weld up this exhaust. So, you know, that's how we do it. And it's been a while since I've used this welder, so I had the settings on low when I was tacking this in, and it really needed to be on high. So now I've got it adjusted. What I'm going to do, because these tacks were done in the Jeep and look like worse than bird poop, gonna try to burn a good weld here, come around here, burn a good weld to kind of close that gap up a little bit. Then I'll grind these back off and weld it up pretty. But I want to hold my angle in here because this is exactly how I need it to fit. So you can see it flushes out here, gaps there. So I'll probably burn a weld in on this side first just to hold it. That way I know I can grind off my bird poop without losing my setup. So let's see how it goes. I'm gonna keep burning on this and get back to you guys in just a minute. So let's see if it works. So I've got the collector that I just welded up there, and then my downpipe here, and then running back underneath the cross member here. Colin, you can probably do a little better job of getting the video. So here's driver's side, passenger side. So they're not perfectly symmetrical or anything. We're not doing any fancy crossover or anything. We're just going to run true duals back here. And for the purposes of tonight, we're just going to graft on the cherry bombs, just so we don't deafen ourselves here in the shop. But first I got to get this tacked up, and then I can pop both these out and like fully weld them up tonight if we got time. It's just going to be a race to see who can get these done versus the getting the engine running over there. So this will at least get the exhaust fumes away from us while we're in the engine bay though. So shall we?
Watch your eyes.
Okay. You got a hood?
Yep.
Okay. Fine.
Need to get up on this side.
That's a big ass fan there. Yeah, just put both right out there. That is awesome.
Slow going, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to spray through rubber.
Pretty much. But you don't have to blast it all off there.
It wasn't as powerful as I was expecting. I thought it was going to rip that paint right off.
No. Up. Up. Yeah, there we go. Nope. There we go. All right.
Are you GoPro-ifying this?
Can you really be any sort of craftsman without a paint?
So we're gonna start the ignition procedure, and it's gonna be like starting up the freaking Dragon, you know, rocket, because this thing has sat for so long, we don't even really remember all the steps. So we're gonna commence the ignition procedure, and we'll see you here in a minute.
Yeah. There's something wrong with the fuel pump. The Jeep battery's not gonna help.
Uh-oh. And the electrodigitals on the...
Maybe it's a ground for the fuel pump.
Could be.
That could be it.
Yeah, where's the ground to come up in for the fuel pump?
I don't know where the ground goes to the fuel pump.
I think it goes right to the actual fuel filter.
Tank.
Goes to the tank, yeah, the fuel filler is what I would say.
Hey, tail lights just came on.
Yeah, I saw tail lights come on. That was kind of interesting.
Evan's no longer thinking, he's just jacking around in here.
You said I turned on.
Wait a minute, how the tail lights come on?
I don't know. They blinked.
That harness goes to all the crap back there.
I don't think
And the only things back there are tail lights and the gear pump.
turned on.
All right, so here's what our exhaust looks like as we're leaving it tonight. So driver's side and passenger side, and they both run parallel, true duals. They run back underneath the cross member, and we'll rig up some mounts here before I leave. We'll figure all that planing out, and then when they go back, and we've got our dual cherry bombs. And the goal is that at some point, right about here, we'll put in an H-pipe. But we got these cherry bombs, and then we've got dumps that are angled out before you get to the rear wheels. And we'll have to figure out how we really want to do that and where we want the pipes to come out. But that ought to sound just freaking rad now that we've got that exhaust on there. And I'm thinking we'll put hangers in somewhere right around in here to support these, and the goal would be to put a clamp right here so these can be a two-piece part, because this part has to thread up and over the cross member to really get in there. But so we're going to figure out where our O2 sensors go, because we've got these bungs that we need to install. As we're doing our O2 sensors, we're going to plan for a location that's going to be easy to get a wrench on, so we can fiddle fart with them if we need to. So we've got them hanging in here, and we'll mark those locations so we can pull this exhaust one more time, mark where the bungs go, and get those put in the next work session. And then over here, this one is just a real booger bear, and you can see clearly how close it is to the upper control arm and why we need to lift this thing and get a little bit more access there. So let me take you up top and show you what we did. So up here we've got the power steering reservoir hooked up. Do we have any fluid in it? No fluid in it yet. But we've got the hoses run so that when we start this thing up and the power steering starts spinning here, it won't be burning up the pump. There'll be power steering fluid in there circulating through here, and the power steering might actually work, which would be awesome. And then we got the steam line. The way these 5.3 liters work is there's a line that comes out of a steam port on the top of the head over there. It runs through the bottom of the throttle body here, which I can only presume is to preheat the throttle body. And then that line runs here, and then we've got that tied back into the port on the radiator, just like it is in my truck, which we use as an example. So got that all hooked up. We've got water in here. We'll have to hook this to an overflow at some point, but right now we at least have water in there. And we even went so far as to put the rear end up on jack stands as if we were going to be able to start this thing and throw it into gear. So that'll be a goal for next time, is to see if we can throw it into gear and make this thing turn. Another thing that we need to work on, we don't have any brakes at all, any pressure. And so walking up here and looking at this whole thing is wobbly loose. And yeah, nothing in there for the front brakes, it looks like. So we're gonna have to tighten up the booster. We're gonna have to tighten up the booster, get it properly installed, get the brakes bled. It doesn't look like there's anything physically wrong with the brakes down here that we can tell yet. It really just looks like they just need to be properly bled. So we might even fiddle with that here a little bit before we walk away, just put some fluid in here But yeah, whew, another night, not a lot done, just details. So one thing that you saw us cleaning up and painting earlier are these bad boys. These are some 3-inch lift springs that came off of the red Cherokee over there that belongs to Eric. And next time, another chore that we'll probably do is swap these bad boys in there to get us a little bit of lift, buy us some distance from our manifolds and everything to our control arms and everything. So that'll lift the front end up. It probably won't net us a full 3 inches of lift because of this motor's a little bit heavier, but we'll see. It'll definitely buy us the room that we need. And the nice thing about these, we lifted several of these Cherokees, so we've kind of got the system down pretty well. The nice thing is we can get those springs in there. We won't have to change any of the geometry of the front end. We won't have to change control arms or anything like that. We can literally just jack it up, drop the lower control arms off, pull those old springs out, pop the new ones in. So maybe next time, or maybe in the meantime, Eric and Matt will do that, but those springs are ready to go in. So we're right on the cusp of getting some really good stuff done. Well, guys, we spent another night working on this project, and we didn't even get it started tonight, but we did get a few things accomplished. We got the exhaust kind of figured out, kind of welded up. We got it filled up with water. We got the power steering temporary kind of hooked up. We got the exhaust manifolds installed with new bolts, and we got a plug put on the on the old O2 port on there. So, you know, not a lot to show for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours worth of work, but hey, we got something done. I'll show you the details here in just a second, but I just want to tell you guys, I really appreciate everyone that's been tuning in to follow along this project. We're having fun, and we're having a lot of fun sharing it with you guys. We just really appreciate you sharing it with us. So we'll try to make this a lot shorter time until the next time we get together. So thanks for joining in. We'll see you next time. So I gotta be honest with you, we are right on the cusp of getting some really good stuff done with this. We are so close to making this thing run, making the wheels turn, and making it stop. Conceivably, if we came in here and put in some real hard work, we could be doing a burnout before too long. Maybe even in the next episode. So, you know, we just got to persevere. We've got to take the time to come back down here and really rock on this thing. And maybe we can make it happen. In the meantime, hopefully, Eric and maybe even you, Matt, are you gonna come try to work on it some too? Troubleshoot this thing, figure out why the fuel pump's not working again. I'm sure it's something small that we're just overlooking. And then once we can do the long-term game plan for this, so I'll take you through the whole deal. The long-term plan for this is to get it running, go do the burnout, know that we've got all the kinks worked out. Then we're going to bring it back in here, pull it apart, tune up a few things in the engine bay, get it all painted. Once we have the engine pulled out, we'll pull out the studs that are broken off in it, fine tune that, get the LS2 intake put on it. Thanks for bumping my camera. Get the LS2 get the LS2 intake on it, and get the LS2 water pump put on it, and then put it all back in there. And since we've got all the fine details worked out, we can get this thing pulled out and swap back in no time. And then when we reinstall it the next time, we'll also get the wiring harness put in the way it needs to be, because right now it's not run through the correct hole in the firewall or anything like that. So really, we're kind of operating with a temp setup, but we're making sure that it's, you know, we've got our exhaust welded up the way it needs to be, our bracketry, our mounts, the big picture stuff figured out. So, man, I'm just jazzed. We finally worked on it again. We just need to get down here sooner and finish it up.